Dala! So today I wanted to talk to you about different traditions in Yoni egg practice. Yoni egg practice, and I say practice because Yoni eggs to me are really not a tool that you just pick up like that and that you use once in a while or when you feel like it, or when you use it one time and then you just put it on the shelf and it sits there or what have you. To me, Yoni eggs are really meant to be used within a practice in order to get all of the benefits that it can actually give you. And if you don't use it that way, you're not going to get the full contact, you're not going to get the full benefits. And that's why sometimes a woman will say, I have a Yoni egg, it doesn't do anything for me, it doesn't do that. It's because you haven't established a practice, you haven't established the use of it, and you haven't chosen a perspective into how you're going to work with that Yoni egg and what you're working on, and seeing that practice develop and what that practice actually doing for you. And to me, the Yoni egg, when you start researching, especially as a newbie, when you start researching where Yoni eggs come from, what kind of practice they come from, that's the type of research that I've done earlier on, and was amazed about the different traditions and practices that come out. One of the practices, of course, the most popular one is the Asian practice, especially with China, with the jade egg. And that's one of the most popular. If you type on YouTube jade eggs, or even in French jade egg, you'll probably find tons and tons of video specifically using that, where people are sharing their practices or techniques and what have you. That's because it is the most popular, and because it is the one of the practice or tradition that has been the most talked about online, at least, or on the internet. And that practice is really based on the use of jade eggs, which is a particular crystal that was abundant in Asia. But I think when you're choosing the practice that you want to adopt and the tradition that you want to follow, you have to be cognizant of the status of the woman that were using it, the context into which it was developed. So when we look at the Chinese tradition, we know that Yoni eggs was used by concubine of the emperor, even sometimes the empress herself, but most of the women using them were concubine. And so this already sets some kind of perimeter, some type of context where the concubine in that specific context, we're not worrying about what they're gonna wear, what they're gonna eat, because the emperor was taking care of that. They may have different challenges. Sometimes they may not be able to have contact with their own families or visitation from their families. Some of them may have had children already that they couldn't see. Some of them may have had lovers that they couldn't see anymore when they were taken to be the concubine of the emperor. So you have to fit it in those contexts, because that's what is going to give you the parameter of what kind of tradition you're following and what kind of tradition you're using, because it may influence the way you are approaching it, and it may influence your own experience also. And sometimes you may also see that if you're not within those kind of parameters, the tradition or the practice may not give you full benefit. So for example, if you are not if you've been, for example, a side chick, or if you had somebody cheat on you, or if you felt like you were held against your will, or in a relationship where your heart wasn't really there, this practice may be more inclined to be serving you, because it's a practice that if you have a lover that works that travels a lot, whether it is for business or in the military, and you're not traveling with that person, that may be a practice that you may want to consider, because it is going to give you it is taking that in consideration. It was built in that kind of context. I think that's why it's important to research the context and the tradition you want to follow, or the context and the tradition that you want to, the approach that you want to take when you're building up your practice. When you go far towards the west, you reach in India, and you can see that there's two main Indian tradition there. There are many more, but those are the two main ones that I've researched. The first one is the tradition that is really much more luxurious, when the Shah gives the Yoni egg to his wife with so much love and adoration as adornment. And those Yoni eggs are not jade, they are much more luxurious. They were crystals that were much more rare. So you can talk about rubies, you can talk about emeralds, you can talk about all of those precious stones that she will use as a way to expand her sensuality, to expand her sexuality, and to expand the love that she shared with him, and to expand the love that she expresses in that relationship with herself, with that partner, and sometimes even for her nation. So I think it's a practice that's very, very different. It's a practice also that is directed to a specific amount of women, to a specific type of women, So that's a practice where if you're struggling financially, that's not going to be the practice for you, simply because those eggs are luxurious. Sometimes they go for $400, $500, $600 an egg in order to indulge in that. So it should be money that you can afford to spend on that. It shouldn't be something that you invest in when you cannot afford it, because psychologically you're not going to be in that context, and so you're not going to get the full benefit of the practice based on that. It could, however, have a significant impact if you are in a well-sound relationship where you are loved and you feel that love and you're looking to expand, and you can afford to put that $500 or save for the $500. That can basically give you that big push. But if you're in a relationship that kind of shaky, that is not a relationship where there is a clear commitment to you long term, that kind of practice is not going to give you full benefits. Then you have other practices. You can go down to Persia and the harem context where Yoni eggs were also used. You can go down to Kemetic context and how it was used. You can go to Nubia, you can go to Native Americans. There's different contexts where Yoni eggs per se were used, and where you can find the egg, and each context is built upon the culture where it is from. It's built upon the environment where the practice was born or the practice was utilized, and based on the profile of those women and what they represent, the condition that they were in. So the practice is usually built to help you cope with those conditions and help you expand and overcome those conditions. So sometimes you may have someone who will start with a jade egg and end up in a different practice after a while, because you expand and you move on and you evolve. So it's not that because you're starting somewhere you have to stay there all your life. For some women it used to be like that. It used to be that you will start in one practice and that will be the practice of your entire life, because your condition will remain the same no matter what. But today we have now the availability to see that with travel, with more opportunities, that practice can morph very easily. But it is important to take that in consideration when you are considering which approach you want to take, which practice you want to establish, and how this is fitting into your lifestyle and fitting into your pattern and your profile. I think sometimes a lot of women say they don't get any benefits from the Yoni eggs. I think because you need to take more time in terms of establishing an appropriate practice for you, a practice that will follow your own and that will address your own needs, and that will follow exactly where you are in life, that is similar to your own condition, rather than taking a practice that may be very foreign to you, that you may look at women who didn't even have the same condition that you had, who didn't worry about the same thing that you worried about, and therefore who may make your experience a little bit difficult to achieve. I'm not going to say impossible, but your experience may be a lot more challenging if you didn't experience all of that. So I hope this video was really useful. I think this is more of a advanced video, but I think even as a newbie or someone who's interested into Yoni eggs, it's good to know that there are practices out there. It's good to push your research also to find out a little bit more about each of the tradition that you're looking at, to go beyond maybe the jade egg and see what Yoni eggs have to offer in general, and to establish a practice based on your needs, your belief, your culture, and also on your status, whether what type of relationship are you going through right now, what type of needs do you have financially, emotionally, energetically, etc., so that the practice actually is developed and done to serve you fully. Thank you for being with me, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.